Get swagged out.
Hey, what up, though, people? Welcome back to Wake Up Woodward. We are back. It's your boy Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credentialed Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Flannel Sam, the vet of the squad and the network, all sports, everything, nowhere, Red Wings correspondent, and Flannel Angelo as well, man. Those trades last segment between he and KG, I'm just like, let's go, let's get cooking. But obviously, whatever Brad Holmes decides, we rock with. That's what it is. And we got to talk Detroit Pistons. They beat the Philadelphia 76ers 105-95 to win their first game of the season. And I hear people already, oh, well, Paul George and Joel Embiid didn't play. Well, we saw this team lose last year to the same type of recipe. Like, stop me if you've heard this thing before. The Pistons were playing a team without their top players, and Tyrese Maxey went off for 32 points. Last year, that's a win or a loss, Flannel Sam?
That's a loss.
That is a loss.
Big loss.
This year,
big loss.
This year, this team, they did some different things. You're not going to do too much to stop a Tyrese Maxey, but I liked what they did in this game. Starting with that backcourt, we got a little bit more gritty Tobias Harris, a lot more gritty Tobias. He was very gritty. Despite the shot not falling, what do you want a shooter to do if it's not falling? Bro, make something happen. He did that last night. And there was this wrinkle that J.B. Bickerstaff, I believe, was forced into, and that was playing Isaiah Stewart a heavy 34 minutes last night. 11 rebounds and 3 blocks.
Yeah, Beef Stew came with it, bro.
He came with it, and it's what they've been missing. It's why I was clamoring for Nick Claxton. Not that I want Jalen Duren to go anywhere, but that you have to have that type of presence in the middle for your team to have success in this NBA. And the problem is that it's a little bit more difficult, I believe, for Beef Stew to do that consistently. But one of the other things, just because I want to get everyone's takeaways as well, one of the other things that I liked that they put into effect, Jaden Ivey at the end of quarters, at the end of the second quarter, two-hand dunk. And he was the guy with the ball in his hand. Cade was playing off ball. At the end of the third quarter, Jaden Ivey, a couple big plays, and down the stretch, Jaden Ivey very active. That backcourt combined for 45 points. Got busy in the paint as well. They were just tough all the way around, brother.
Oh, yeah. And I know Stick is in the chat just wilding out about Jaden Ivey. And honestly, you know what? I didn't think that it was going to ever work with Cade and Ivey playing together. And honestly, so far in these first 5 games, I have been proven wrong on that. Because let me just... And I know we want to talk about last night too, but let me just read you their numbers through the first 5 games. Cade is averaging 26, 6, and 7 on 47, 40, 86 splits. Jaden Ivey 21, 4, and 4 on 48, 43, 75 splits. They've been excellent. There's really nothing that you can say bad about them except occasionally, like the fourth quarters haven't necessarily been the best, but they've been the driving force of the Pistons and what they've done, even being in some of those games that they eventually ended up losing. But hey, Philadelphia, I got to say this as well. There's a new sheriff in town, and that's this Detroit Pistons, because you're not just going to sit Paul George and Joel Embiid and still cruise to a victory. Not like last year. This is a new Pistons team, and I get it. We saw some troubling signs in the first 4 games, but we all knew that it was different. We all knew that this was a Pistons team that if they played cohesive, if they played together, if some of the veterans stepped up, that they could win some games. They could even steal some that you wouldn't think that they would win. And last night, I kind of thought going into it that it was a must-win in some ways. And you know what? The Pistons, they put the foot on the throats. They were ahead 18 at the end of the third, and they won by double digits. You love to see it. You love to see them finish primarily by way of Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's the thing. We wanted to see the vets step up in that fourth quarter so that we could see balance. They do need more off of their bench, and that's why part of me still wants to see Tim Hardaway off the bench, not due to anything that he didn't do to deserve to start. That man has been absolutely much better than everybody who I saw when they first announced Tim Hardaway is coming here. This man has been a bucket, and he's been hot from behind the arc. I got some more numbers for you.
Love it.
That I'm serious because because this is why I'm saying, like, despite they almost win the start and they win their first game of the season. They're 1-4, and they defeated a team that didn't have their best 2 players. There are trends that show you that as this team continues throughout the season and they get their legs underneath them, they get that chemistry underneath them, and they understand the level of defense. You got to take that defensive effort last night and bottle that up. Why? Because those rebounds. Let's talk about some of these stats, bro. The rebounding effort last night, man. And I get it. Joel Embiid did not play, and he does sway things. But to go out there and have 49 rebounds to 37. That shows that this team made a concerted effort to get into the paint and to get dirty. The blocks were up for the Detroit Pistons across the board as well. Tobias Harris got a block. Cade Cunningham got another block. And obviously Beef Stew got his 3 blocks too. And one of the numbers that I really like that should help fans say, you know what, let me give this team a little bit more time to see what they're going to do is this. And this is via JD Sports tweets. Shout out to him, friend of the show. And he's helped out with some Woodward Pistons content as well. He says, this is encouraging. Of the players who have attempted 5 or more threes a game, right? We've got 4 of those guys now. Malik Beasley, Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Tim Hardaway Jr., right? Beasley, 14 for 37, shooting 37.8%. Cade, 14 of 35, shooting 40%. Ivy, 12 of 28, shooting 42.9%. Tim Hardaway Jr., 16 of 30, shooting a blistering 53 point. Ooh. Tim Hardaway, just go blue to you. Fred Vincent. I mean, the Vincent factor. Don't put the question mark, JD. Put the exclamation. Because these boys, you can see the work. And you know what name you don't see there that I'm actually happy I don't see? Tobias. Why? Because the vet knows if the shot ain't falling, don't take 5 3-point attempts a game.
Right.
That's the point. So the guys that are hitting are the guys getting the shots. And that is beautiful to see. This is something that I do believe is sustainable. We're starting to see. If this squad can bring the defense, and if Jaden Ivey can continue to be that, you know what?
4 years ago, I ran for prosecutor to keep our kids and our families safe. And we're making progress.
When he got paid and he brought it, that's supposed to be Jaden Ivey's job. And what we saw last night was exactly that. We got a backcourt that's really a 1A and a 1B, and everybody else falls in line after that. If we're going to sit around and expect Tobias to be that guy, I don't expect him to go out there and do what I saw Jaden Ivey do and get the 23 and be punishing at the rim that way. That's his job, and I believe there's an open lane for him to absolutely take, not just being the number 2 by default, but because you're going out there and putting in the work like we saw last night.
Finishing at the rim strong, making his threes, playing better defensively. Hey, Jaden Ivey, maybe he's actually benefiting from a coach who believes in him, unlike Monty Williams. And for the record, Stick, it's 1A, 1B. You act like Jaden Ivey's a superstar and Cade Cunningham is Michael Carter Williams. So don't victory lap just yet. This is but I will say this. I had fading belief in Jaden Ivey, and he's winning me over again. So I got to give him that. He has been more than I could have ever imagined, which in a lot of ways it makes it all the more disappointing that they're 1-4 instead of having a couple of wins. But still, I don't want to say they stole one last night, but as I said, it's disrespectful to be the team that everybody thinks they can rest their best players against and still beat. You
got to go out there and punch them. And that's why I'm glad that they held them under 100 and Maxey went off. And they had players that generally go off on us. Drummond generally just does weird, stupid things in games that we lose to when he's playing. And it's just like, man, and you know what? Man, I don't even know if I should put this out. I know somebody connected to Jaden Ivey is really happy. And he says, bro, I love JB as it relates to JB Bickerstaff. And I would just put it like that. They will get over the hump soon. They are playing well. And this is from somebody whose sports opinion, I promise you, I trust. Someone who's been a pro athlete and somebody who understands what's going on. And it's like to understand that what they felt last year, for Jaden Ivey to stay professional through this all, that's what made me bullish that he and Cade could work. When I saw him in those last 15 games of the season, because I said, let me just see who Jaden Ivey's going to be, because it's almost decision time, I saw a player that I said, you know what? He's one I'm bullish on. I love Jalen Duren, but he's one that you guys heard me say, I kind of want to get some more help in here. But Jaden Ivey's one I said, he's going to have to be that guy, but he's going to have to step up. And this year, he's doing it.
He is. And you mentioned something before, and I don't know if this is the conversation that people are quite ready for yet. You mentioned the rebounds. You mentioned the blocks. Guess who was on the bench for the majority of that game? Just got to put that out there.
I've been trying to have the conversation, but in a much more diplomatic way for the last 7 months.
Isaiah Stewart is your best center right now.
Your best defender in the paint.
And that's not okay. I mean, I love what Isaiah Stewart is giving them defensively.
But he's undersized.
He is undersized, and he's not even like giving you anything scoring wise.
And he can't do this every night. Like, depending on who he's going against, you can get away with this against Andre Drummond. I mean, come on now.
Come on,
against better centers in the NBA, it's not happening.
Duren fouled out in 11 minutes, and there was no Embiid.
It's crazy.
Do you all remember when we talked about this some months back, maybe February or March, and we talked about some free agent options while the season was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, dog, man, like in December, I wrote the article and people came at me like, bro, you're giving up on him. You're this, you're that. And now this is interesting because my whole stance this entire time has been, no, I think he needs someone here that can show him. Stewart is a little bit undersized and plays a little bit different, but I thought that a Nick Claxton would be somebody that could help a Duren.
Yeah.
And that JB Bickerstaff in particular is somebody who we know has gotten the best out of playing multiple bigs like that. And then you can actually explore Duren more into this offensive versatile type role outside of the paint a little bit more, so you're not clogging it when he and Claxton are in the game. Like that's what I wanted to see. But this is why I also clamored for, we got to get somebody in here, because remember, we went through the defensive ratings. We went through the defense ratings of the team. Mm-hmm. We went through just where Claxton's were versus Duren's and everyone else's, and that he still needs time to develop. But they have to do something, because you guys see the impact of a Stewart against a Drummond. Yeah, that's going to make a big impact. That's what's missing. If they don't do something to kind of get that on this team, I do believe that they'll be taking some wins away from themselves.
Yeah, because you're not always gonna be playing Andre Drummond.
No.
All due respect to him, but the Sixers rested their superstar center because he doesn't play back-to-backs anymore. And whether or not the outcome would have been different if he played, I think the point is that the Pistons just they needed that win almost for their own pride at that point. You just can't be the NBA's punching bag anymore. And through the first 4 games, I'm not saying they were a punching bag. They let a couple slip away. And I'm also happy to see Tobias Harris have his best game with his new
and he got
Pistons
booed
role.
in Philly, man. That's crazy. Booed after 5 years. I understand it didn't end the best way, but for them to go out there and boo my mans, that's a little crazy. But he responded, man. 18 and 14.
14
that's
rebounds.
14 rebounds from Tobias Harris. That's a dream
and
scenario.
one dunk.
Yes.
And one layups. I'm getting busy when it counts, like
getting easy looks when his
Nasty.
shot isn't falling, when his shot still isn't falling.
Getting to the
pass.
rim, back to the basket. Like, yeah, man. He was in his bag last night, for lack of better words. I know the shot wasn't consistent, but overall, this is the type of efforts that you need from your veterans. I mean, look at how Tim Hardaway stepped up in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Some big three-pointers. And like you pointed out, Kool-Aid, the biggest difference is the three-point shooting. They shot 41% last night as a team.
You know what helps that too?
What?
You guys understand it. You're growing up with teams and coaches. These are the things that are in your head. But, box out, set heavy screens, set bone-crushing screens. When we'll talk about the three-pointers, Tim Hardaway made back-to-back threes at the 6:05 mark and then at the 5:50 or 5:40 mark. That really, at that point in time, you knew this game is definitely done. And the Philly had cut the game from about 16 to 10 or about 11. Beef Stew was battling in there and grabbed the offensive rebound, made a perfect pass back out to Tim Hardaway, who was wide open. The very next play, Tim Hardaway passed it to Tobias. Mm-hmm. Tobias passed it right back, ran off a rub of Isaiah Stewart. Yeah. Isaiah Stewart went and set a pick for Tim Hardaway. Where was the defender at all? He was out of the picture completely because Stewart, man, he was putting in so much grit that's not going to show up on the stat sheet. And those things do contribute too, because now you got Tim Hardaway wide open. Last year, one of my big complaints was Cade is coming off pick and rolls and the defender is like, hi, I'm still here. But this year I'm seeing guys like Stewart, when he's in there, those pick and rolls, that type of stuff matters when you're talking about NBA speed and spacing. Yeah,
and I'm glad you brought up that part of the game. The part of the game that I felt like it turned was in the second quarter, because that first quarter, it was kind of trending like this was going to be a bad Pistons loss. It was no chemistry, a lot of bad, silly fouls, moving screens, turnovers, and they got to get over this turnover bug. That is one thing that is really limiting this team and holding this team back. But I felt like they could have let this game get away. They were down 7, but going into that second quarter, I mean, Cade Cunningham, he just started going off, man. And the interior defense improved. You started to see a little bit of Jaden Ivey, and in the middle of the second quarter, they went on a 15-0 run that put them up 7, and from there, they didn't look back. They pretty much had to lead the rest of the game. So, And it was times where, they were up 21, but they let it fall, to like 12 or 14. But ultimately, they did not let this slip, and it's because you were able to lean on your veterans at the end when your young guys, they gave you a good second and third quarter, and they kind of gassed out. When you needed them most, that's when they came through.
Because if this was the other way around, it would be like Tyrese Maxey had, 32 points. Why didn't he will his team to win?
Yeah.
Maybe Tyrese Maxey sucks, like they say about Cade Cunningham. Like, I hate that narrative because it's clear that Cade Cunningham is a difference maker. And last night, when you get the balance that these additions were supposed to provide, you see that this guy's usage rate goes down. His efficiency goes up. He was 50%, 4 of 8 from behind the arc last night. That's a good thing.
And Jaden Ivey as well, you got to give him credit for how he played. Because really in that third quarter when K had to sit down, they were able to efficiently run the offense through Jaden Ivey, and he was getting to the basket. He was hitting threes. He was passing a little bit. Still, he still need to work on some of the little minor mistakes, but overall, he's looking more polished. I really do feel like this can work, but this is why I said you need to stagger Ivey a little bit because you're not getting a lot out of your bench right now either. I mean, Malik Beasley, he had 3 3-pointers, but where is Fontecchio, man? He is not showing
play
up.
with Cade. This is the thing I've been saying since last season as well, and he has to play with K. You got to give it into that starting lineup next to him, somebody who is going to draw that attention.
Yeah.
And I do like the way at the end of quarters, Cade and Ivey were working. That's why I'll definitely tell people, check out how they're working because Ivey took over a little bit more of that ball handling role. And Cade, for some reason, I remember the two-handed dunk that Ivey got at the end of the half. The defender on Cade refused to leave Cade.
Yeah.
That's what created the dunk lane for Jaden Ivey. The drive lane was created because it was a great screen by Stewart. But the dunk lane came because the defender literally looks back at Ivey, but then puts his hand back out at Cade, and Ivey two-hand dunk. What's he going to do? And so it's like if they can find a way to continue that, and I know a lot of film study is what's going to take there, as well as a coach who understands how to break down that film for their players.
That's the real key. Because Ivey looks like his growth was stunted last year, but it looks like he can't take that next step with Cade, them both being on the floor at the same time. And it's beautiful to see. They both had over 20 points. Ivey finished with 23, Cade 22. That's all you can ask for.
That was always going to be the most ideal scenario. You want your high draft picks to hit.
Yeah.
I wanted Jaden Ivey to do well. Like I said, I had my doubts, but he's definitely shutting me up. When I said he should have been on the bench, he's proven me wrong. Hopefully you listened. You probably didn't, but if you did, use that as motivation. And speaking of my only criticism was motivating, how about Ron Holland, who I never had any negative words for, who I never doubted? Don't let that thing like visual evidence of draft night sway you from that. But for real, Ron Holland gave you 13 valuable minutes off the bench as well.
He did. And shout out to Ron Holland, too. All he wants to do is work hard. He's one of those guys as well who I believe in his future because like Ivey's one of those hard workers, one of those guys who came up in basketball culture. He and Cade Cunningham did that together. And I want to give a lot more love to Jalen Duren. Because you're going to have nights like last night. And though every player has things to improve upon, I still believe that Jalen Duren has a little bit too much on his plate, but that he's still a great player for this young team. Yeah. Obviously, as it relates to the grand scheme of the NBA, he has some places to get to be great. He's a part of this core. I believe he needs some help on that front line, and I do believe he will take those necessary strides this season as well. So I'm still very bullish on who Jalen Duren can be. I see Danny G in the chat. Duren is 20. Give him a break a little. But, yes, it is concerning. And I think that that's about where people are. They believe he will get there, but people get antsy when the Tigers get hot, when the Red Wings get close, when the Lions are going, and the Pistons are on rebuild. Now, here's Ivey. You want to see him be able to be one of those guys as well, and I think that he will be.
Yeah, and you can look at that he's 20 and give him a bit of a pass for some of his shortcomings. I think kind of like what we saw with Ivey last year, and like Duren, it wasn't all Ivey's fault by any stretch. I think right now Jalen Duren still has some allegations against him that he has to answer for. But like you, Kool-Aid, I'm not writing him off just yet. I'm just little concerned, but it's 5 games.
And
I do think he has, and I do think that he has too much on his plate, like you said.
And thank God they got one before this snowball, man. Did y'all see that video of the team celebrating last night?
Yeah.
The champagne.
JB Bickerstaff.
I know that felt good for them, man. I'm so happy for this team, and hopefully they can keep this momentum going because you're about to be out of a tough stretch, and then you got some very winnable games. They got time to right the ship, man. You just hope that they can do that.
They do. And before we get to what's trending, a lot of those Pistons players have gotten paid, including Cade Cunningham.
Hey.
If he wants the best car, go to Les Stanford.
Hey.
What happens when you run a great business for over 50 years? You expand it.